Hi, everybody. Tonight's episode of Dash Culture is dedicated to the lives and the loved ones lost, of those lost in the Kyoto Animation tragedy. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 38 of Dash Culture, powered by DashGamer.com. I'm one of your hosts, Dash, along with tonight's guest host, Mr. Joel Gralton from Anagame. How are you, Joel?
How's it going, man?
Good. How are you, dude?
I'm not too bad.
Dude, we've been trying to, get something going with each other for a little while, in terms of, just something like me and you, a little show that me and you can do.
You haven't bought me dinner first.
Well, we've tried. So it's kind of lined up. I've booted Buddy off the show and said, you know what? And I said, you know what? It's time to get Joel in, and it's just going to be me and him having a discussion tonight. So, of course, we would have loved it if it was better circumstances.
Yes,
but a discussion between myself and you is always a good thing. So, in saying that, guys, if you didn't know, Dash Culture usually is our bi-weekly pop culture conversational podcast where the worlds of Dash and Buddy collide. Tonight, it's where myself and Joel will be sitting down talking about the latest in anime, and that's it.
And a little bit of game stuff. That's about it.
And a little bit of game stuff if it pops up here and there, or if somebody pops in the chat and says, "Hey, games," I'm like, got nothing. PlayStation haven't done anything, or neither, and I'm not going to talk about Joy-Con drift for an hour. That if you want to hear about Joy-Con drift, you can go to the House of Mario. They had a lovely discussion about that this week, so those guys definitely covered that. But if you like usually what we talk about, make sure that you follow us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify, where you can give us those cheeky 5-star ratings. And here's Ryan in the chat. Hey, where is that sexy weeb action at? Well, it's coming. And we've got you covered tonight. But also on dashgamer.com, we can check out some of our latest reviews and news and all that geeky stuff. Speaking of which, housekeeping tonight. God Eater 3 review is up thanks to the guys over at Bandai Namco for allowing us to review that one. And also Attack on Titan 2 review thanks to the guys at Turn Left for allowing us to review that one as well. Simon from Take My Tone has done the Dash Gamer playlist this week, number 10. And you can also check out Take My Tone on dashgamer.com with Buddy and Simon as they reviewed the latest Sum 41 album. So make sure that you guys check that one out. And Joel, you reviewed Senran Kagura?
Peach Ball.
Peach Ball.
It's live on the site right now. If you like pinball and titties, check it out.
Exactly. It's the beach episode of a video game.
Yeah. Exactly. With a little bit of furry action thrown in as well. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It knows that it's out there, but it's a really good pinball game at the same time. So check out the review, check out the game, and coming up this week, I should have a couple more reviews going live for there's currently in cinemas a Tokyo Ghoul S movie. Yeah. Review on that soon. There is also I'm also making my way through Youngblood. Wolfenstein, so look out for that probably later this week. And I'm also playing through Fire Emblem Three Houses. That review will not be this week because that is a lengthy ass game.
It is a lengthy ass game, yeah, definitely. And I'm with you. That review won't be out for at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But you guys can check out Joel's review of Senran Kagura Peach Ball. It's out right now on anagame.com, so make sure you guys check that out. Brian in the chat, pinball and titty sounds delicious. that's anime. So once again, Joel is here tonight. I thought that Joel would be the perfect person to discuss tonight's topic. It's mainly, this is going to be our main topic of the night, which is the Kyoto Animation tragedy that occurred almost 12 days ago over in Kyoto, Japan, which is it's honestly been something that's kind of stuck with me since it happened every day. Well, actually, you know what? We'll jump right into the headline because this is the headline that kind of sticks in my head every time I think about it, which basically is coming from ABC News. Japan's worst mass killing since 2001 claims, and this was dated, by the way, the 19th. There's been more, so at least 33 in arson attack on Kyoto Animation Studio. So they've updated it today. They just updated it today, actually. It's gone to 35, which is very sad. But on the website, it basically says, a man screaming die burst into an animation studio in Kyoto and set it on fire, leaving 33 confirmed dead and another 36 people injured, authorities say. The fire broke out in the 3-story Kyoto Animation Building in Japan's ancient capital of Kyoto after the suspect sprayed an unidentified liquid to accelerate the blaze. Kyoto Prefectural Police and Fire Department officials said. Kyoto Fire Department official said that the firefighters found more than a dozen people presumed dead on the top floor and 3-story building of some of the collapse on stairs leading to the roof. And I'm getting a little bit upset reading this.
Yeah, there has been confirmed, I'm pretty sure, since that it was gasoline.
Yeah.
That was used, and Japan have now put sanctions in for how much gasoline people are allowed to buy now if you're filling up tanks.
Yeah.
So they've limited it to 60 litres, so this guy must have had a decent amount.
Well, apparently,
if he's walked in.
Yeah, so apparently so what happened was they went to the hardware store, which was only about 10 minutes away, a walk away from the studio, and they asked for the CCTV footage from the hardware studio to basically see what the go was. And apparently they found him in the hardware shop that day, buying 10 bottles of 10 red gasoline tanks to fill up on the way to the studio, which basically they confirmed and found out that he did. It's something that's quite disappointing, and a lot of people had reported to police that he had been hanging around the studio for a few days at a time. Obviously, he'd been planning his attack on Kyoto Animation Studios, which is quite sad to see and hear. It's one of those things where it's essentially a terrorist attack.
It is a terrorist attack.
Yeah. And you don't see many of those kind of things coming out of places like Japan or anything like that. So...
No, they've got a very different tolerance for crime.
Yeah, they do.
In that country. So, it's really like an ultimate sin for them to be involved in any kind of crime, or it kind of like shames your whole family.
Yeah,
exactly. And they're really against that, but very sad.
Yeah, the culture's quite different over there, obviously, and to see this kind of thing was very shocking, especially it being an animation studio, an anime studio as well. Obviously, with anime being as big and grand as it is in Japan, we've discussed this on many occasions where, regardless of how much money animation studios make in terms of release, they actually put a lot of the money that they make back into their next projects.
Yes.
And when that happens, they spend a lot on advertising, campaigns, localization, all that kind of deal to get it out there, and then essentially they're back to... I'm not saying that they're broke or anything, but they're back baseline. Yeah. So the some of the story that came out of this as well was the man submitted a novel or a light novel to the studio and believed that he stole one of their stories and made millions off it, and he had been saying that the studio had owed him millions of dollars. What are your thoughts on something like that?
All I'd heard is he was spouting die and rip off. He felt ripped off by the studio, and that's why he did it. And based on that, I don't know what the law's like in Japan or what their policies are for that kind of thing, but that's exactly why video game studios out here, and if you go onto a lot of their contact us pages and things like that, they all say do not send us unsolicited game ideas or anything like that. We cannot use them, we cannot even read them, because if down the line we happen to want to make something like that and you've suggested the next thing, we now can't make it because you have grounds to say, oh, that was my idea, and that kind of thing. So that's why a lot of them say we will not read unsolicited emails a lot of the time.
Yeah, and that's funny because a lot of people take offense to those kind of things. Why can't you take it? It's these kind of things occur because not necessarily tragedies like this, but things that unsolicited lawsuits or anything like that, things that should not be happen afterwards. It's I could have written Spyro the Dragon 20 years before they released it. I could have given it to Insomniac, and Insomniac could have ripped me off. It's well, that's not true at all, because Insomniac did it originally, and you're just saying this kind of shit, you're spewing bullshit now.
Exactly.
So
it's a hard thing to prove, but...
Exactly, yeah. And the fact that this has kind of gone now, it's almost like he'll have zero grounds to stand on, because he's essentially killed his own. If he did do that,
he's surely going to prison for life.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, if he did do that, if he did actually submit work and they did steal it, he's just killed it off. Like, he has no proof. And the fact, though, even if he did, he's killed people. He's killed innocent people to prove a point, and that's not something that you do.
Not just killed, he's injured pretty much everyone in that studio. So, like, Wikipedia as a source can be pretty dodgy at times, but if you do look up on the Kyoto page, it has a part about the arson attack that approximately 70 people were in the building at the time. At least 35 of them are deceased, and 34, including the suspect, have various degrees of injury. That's everyone.
Yeah.
Every single person.
Yeah. Well, that studio was tiny to begin with. Like, it was a tiny studio because it was their original base of the original camp. They have a bigger studio in.
Correct. It's Studio One.
Yeah. So things like this. There was discussion of the place being demolished beforehand as well. So before this all went down, the president had actually said that he was planning on demolishing Studio One and moving everybody to the main studio somewhere in the city or something like that, to have all their work basically digitized as well, because they had because they were
old school,
very old school, especially with that building. But the president or the CEO of the company said that he wanted to have the work digitized, that he wanted to have the workers move to the new studio, and they wanted to knock that studio down and then place a park there as a memorial. Now that this incident has occurred, he definitely wants to do that now, because he doesn't want he doesn't want to rebuild or anything on top of that land. He still wants to own that piece of land, but keep it as a memorial space for what's happened.
Yeah. You wouldn't want people walking back into that same building going to work if they were involved in that and survived.
Exactly, yeah. Not even the same building, like a revamped building or anything like that. Even
you wouldn't want them there.
No, definitely not. It's a bad
trigger for PTSD. It could be anything.
Yeah, even then. And even then, like, this is the other thing too. So going forward with Kyoto Animation, it's essentially, how does this studio kind of move this to the wayside and then continue? It's almost like they don't have the same people that they did. Like, there are some big names that have been rumored to have been in that building at the time. Some of the big directors, some of the big key animators for some of the bigger series, like A Silent Voice,
the Free movie.
Yeah, exactly. The Violet Evergarden movie as well. Like, some of these things, like the Violet Evergarden movie, apparently there's been a teaser today that just got announced for like a spin-off of something. I retweeted it. I'll pull it up, but there are some of the biggest key animators for some of the biggest series that they've put out there that were in that building that are rumored to. The thing is, like you mentioned this to me, Joel, is that they don't like to publicly acknowledge people who've been deceased.
That's part of the culture as well, and they have made a couple of statements on their website completely in Japanese, so I'm basing it on translations through Twitter. But they were originally, after the attack, going to publicize it, and then they've now put out a media statement saying they weren't going to. They wanted to keep it private for the families, let the people grieve and things like that, and until the investigation was finished for the police, because the person that's done it is still in hospital getting skin grafts. He's getting treated. Yeah. And then they haven't officially gone through the charges process or anything like that. So now I believe Kyoto Animation have requested everything still be privatized, which I think is fair enough. But now they're also, I don't know if you've seen, they're kind of getting a lot of media pushback from other big media outlets in Japan and external, now trying to pry in and get the scoop on who's dead, which I think is pretty sad. So there's been media outlets in Japan ringing funeral homes to see if they dealing with any families from Kyoto Animation to try and get information. There's media outlets that are ringing family and friends and loved ones of people they knew worked at the studio to try and get inside information to break these stories. And I think they just need to take a step back, give the people this time to grieve. And when it comes out publicly, it'll come out publicly. But like you said, we don't, until that kind of happens, they also won't make a statement on the status of the projects that were in production, which we assume or rumored that one of them could be completely destroyed.
Yeah, exactly.
And then how badly this is going to be delaying those projects. Are they easily be able to be moved to the main studio?
Yeah.
Like it's very up in the air at the moment, and it's...
Well, yeah, one that completely threw me through a loop today was Crunchyroll actually tweeted it out. I just mentioned that the Violet Evergarden spin-off film is set to be released as planned on September 6th.
So it's done. It's probably been done for quite a while.
Which means, yeah, it had been done for a bit. But the free movie, obviously, we're probably not going to ever see it.
Not in probably the form it was intended, maybe.
No, exactly not. It's a weird thing because you kind of sit back and you look at it and go, do they continue that at all? Do they kind of put it to the wayside, or do they like have another studio kind of come in and help them out in animating, and then say, have that in memoriam to the team that were originally working on it? It's just one of those things that, as a fan of all these series, you don't know if you do still want to see
exactly.
that. It's like there's now a bad taste in your mouth
around the project.
Yeah, ever thinking of seeing it.
Yeah, it'd be hard. Like if they did bring in another company, that's a lot of pressure to hold up to. If the animation in any part of that is bad, then they're going to be like, well, was that the other team? Was that the Kyoto team? Was that? I think you just wouldn't even touch it, to be honest.
Exactly. It's a weird one. It's a weird one to kind of sit back and even grasp. But yeah, another thing as well was I was going to bring up here, which was Kyoto Animation suspect staked out. Like we said it before. This one comes from. Actually, hold on. I had another one that was better from the Japan Times. Here it is. So this one comes from the Japan Times. Death toll in arson attack on Kyoto Animation Studio rises to 35. Like you said, Saturday after the man was treated in hospital, police said the same day. So basically, what this article has skimmed is that he's in a coma currently, and that because of the skin grafts and everything, they can't actually investigate properly or any further because the guy's out completely right now, and it's going to be one of those things where we'll never get a proper answer to a reasoning of this happening ever, and detaining the guy and everything else is just going to be one of those things where okay, we can detain you, you'll be in prison for the rest of your life, but whether or not we actually get a proper answer is null and void. And it's, as a fan,
he's done the damage.
As a fan, it's very, very sad. And we got so many great series out of this animation studio, including some films that actually came over, like A Silent Voice, which even then I think the director of the movie has actually been rumored to have been killed in the tragedy, I should say. Sorry. And it's one of those things where I kind of sit back and think, fuck, A Silent Voice is like one of my most favorite films ever made. It's so good that I can't watch it again. And the reason I say that is because it emotionally gets me every time. And to think that film just came out only a few years ago, and I only saw it very recently. Obviously, I'm a dub guy, so I only watch like a lot of stuff in dub. So when it got localized, it was only like last year that I got to watch it, and then get my hands on it on Blu-ray and everything. To think that film was made and this tragedy occurred by that same studio, and then afterwards thinking, fuck, I'll probably never get to see another piece made by this same director again. It hurts a lot. It hurts a lot to think of that.
Such talent, like, taken for no reason.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talent from that building that got taken too. So it's just very sad, very, very sad. So what I want to do, so we don't keep talking about it in a negative light, is I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of your favorite animes from the studio, and like what connected you with them, and some of the series, some of the films that might have come from them. And so what is I'll say the top three. So what's your top three from Kyoto Animation that really sticks with you?
You're still publishing a piece later in the week about this, aren't you?
Yeah.
So I'm involved in that, so a little bit of spoiler on that.
Yeah.
I'll say the same thing on them. But number one is probably The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya.
Yes.
Then A Silent Voice, and then what I have seen of Violet Evergarden. I still haven't finished it, but
that's all right. Yeah, no, I agree. I'm with you on that as well. I think my top 3 is A Silent Voice. I'd probably say Free.
Yeah,
Free's cool. Free's really good, man. And I'd probably say Violet Evergarden is number 3. So good.
And they also cover quite a diverse genres as well. So you've got your Silent Voice, which is quite emotional, quite beautiful at the same time. But then you've got things like Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, which is a little bit more lighthearted, a lot more comedic.
Yeah.
Haruhi, which is kind of slice of life and music kind of based. Like, this studio kind of covered it all, and they were really good, and pretty much everything they touched was kind of special in some way.
Yeah.
And like you said, I don't know if they'll recover for one or if we'll get that from them again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. NATO from A+ Anime is actually here in the chat. He says, let's talk about the best anime Bugs Bunny, but then he says, you would love those swimmy boys dash. I only got to finish the series. I only got to finish the series this week. It had been on my backlog for a long time, like a long time, because Ian from A+ Anime as well said, hey, you should watch Free. And I was like, okay. And he's like, no, seriously, watch Free. I'm like, all right. So I did. And I loved it. It was a great series. It was. I didn't think I would get so emotionally wrapped into Free, but holy shit, was it awesome. I loved it, man. Such a good series. Have you watched Free?
Only bits of it.
Okay.
So I think maybe the first 4.
First 4
I think
episodes?
it might have come out volumized. I can't remember if it was one out here that came out in volumes.
You did on DVD.
So that's probably why I only saw the first.
Yeah. On DVD it did, but they only just, and that's the other thing, they only just recently re-released it on Blu-ray.
As the complete collection? Yeah.
Yeah, just recently. So, yeah.
So that would explain.
It's funny because, you know what, I've only just recently been picking up all these Kyoto Animation Blu-rays that have just been coming out recently, like Free, Violet Evergarden, are 2 definitely that I just picked up. So it's weird that I just had picked those up. But like Violet Evergarden was like released 2 weeks ago on Blu-ray. So
yes, yeah. Yeah, Mad Men have started doing some Netflix releases out here, which is interesting. They've done Seven Deadly Sins now, Castlevania, and now Violet Evergarden.
Yeah. So it was weird to think of all like the tragedy that had happened, and me just picking up all these series as well physically to actually own because of how much I've loved some of these series as well. But that's definitely another series that I love. Free, fucking awesome, dude. Definitely got to check that one out. But the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, like that's another one that I just recently finished, dude. Fucking hilarious. I loved it, and I also checked out the film. While I was at it,
the disappearance of Haruhi.
Yeah, that one threw me through a loop. Now
it's a bit of a trip.
You know, I like my kind of weird sci-fi kind of anime as well. Like Steins Gate always gets me. Like that's my number one. If anything, like I've actually been thinking about like binging season 1 and 2 again, just because I fucking love Steins Gate. But this one here, the series and the film, I love it because it is a trip. It's
it is
definitely. From the start to finish, like I love the interaction that Haruhi has in the series as well. Like, are you from here? Are you not from this time? Are you an alien? All this kind of deal, man. It was hilarious, and for it to be like a slice of life kind of sci-fi-ish kind of deal
with the espers and and then the music bits thrown in. And
man,
it's like funny. One of those feel-good series. It's just easy watching.
It is,
but also at the same time gets you really, really thinking and kind of throws a lot of questions at you.
I remember when Anime Lab actually tweeted out that it was coming to Anime Lab, and you were the first one to respond to it, saying, "Oh, finally, this is coming out on Anime Lab, and definitely know what I'm going to be doing this weekend."
Yeah, so, I think. And then they've put it up in the right episode order too.
Yeah.
So if you originally got the sets way back in like 2006, 7 when they released them, all the episodes are out of order. They released them in the broadcast order, not the chronological order. They only had certain episodes at the time, and you can watch it in that way, but it's a completely different story if you watch it in the chronological way.
All right.
If anyone's interested in jumping into the series, look out either watch it on Anime Lab or look up an episode list. To make sure you watch it in the order that best suits you. But
I definitely
also before we jump off that topic. Anyone in Australia or New Zealand that does have Anime Lab, they have put up a Kyoto Animation tribute section where they've put up their whole series.
Yep.
And you can catch Violet Evergarden on Netflix, for those of you that have Netflix. But yeah, they probably won't be keeping Silent Voice up there for indefinitely.
No, they put it
the
up recently
series
for everybody to catch,
Yep. Yeah. As a tribute. So anyone out there interested in jumping into any of those series or checking out some of their key works, you can do so on Anime Lab.
Yeah, I definitely highly recommend it, especially Haruhi Suzumiya. It was like, honestly, like when you put out that tweet that you're like, oh, finally it's coming and all that. I sat there for a second reading that tweet and I said, oh, Joel kind of recommends it then. I was like, I should probably sit down and check it out. Watch the first episode. I was like, fuck, I'm in. Seriously, I sat there, watched the whole season. I was like, this is fucking great.
There's an arc in the second series that'll throw a lot of people and it'll probably piss people off if you watched all of the Endless 8 episodes, where it's essentially 8 episodes that are exactly the same, but they're time bending, so slight things. A lot of people have problems with that because it's 8 episodes of essentially the same thing. But
right. Yeah, no, that's interesting. Well, I've definitely got to check that out because I still haven't seen the next series. So there you go. I definitely like the film. I loved. It was great because it was also different to the series, because the series had its own kind of arc and its own story to it, but the film kind of had a different. I don't want to spoil it, but definitely a different flavor to it, you know. And it's funny because you mentioned some of the music pieces in it. I still think that, like when I saw God Knows on the series, I had to flip over to, because I heard the English dub and I was like, that's great, but I want to hear this in Japanese. So I switched over to the Japanese version of God Knows, and I was like, fuck, this is like 10 times better. And I honestly think it is probably one of the best songs out of anime. I still think, like, if you listen to the song and read the words subtitles, one of the best. And I actually have I'm editing part of the spoilers again for the article that's out later this week. But I have a clip that's going with the article this week, and I'm using God Knows with it, but I'm using Ama Lee from YouTube. Her rendition of it, yeah. So I'm using that only because, one, it's God Knows from Haruhi Suzumiya, and two, I think it fit the piece perfectly. So it was a beautiful cover of it and rendition of it. So, but that's definitely another one of my favorites. But I think look, when it comes to what they've done recently and what they've done beautifully as well, I think that Violet Evergarden speaks volumes to what kind of content Kyoto Animation put out there as well. That is honestly, like, it is a Netflix original as well. Like it's out there. Exclusive, I should say. It's a Kyoto Animation original, but it's a Netflix exclusive.
They've got the sole rights to the distribution.
So anybody who's got Netflix out there, you'd have it available to you, and you should definitely be watching it. It is one of the most beautifully animated series I have ever seen. Other than like their film series, like A Silent
Voice. They've got their OVA or the film. Did they do a Violet Evergarden film already? I know they've done the OVA.
I'm not sure if they've done the film yet. Maybe they have. I haven't seen it. But
no,
they announced the spin-off film.
Coming out.
Yeah,
the spin-off
that's on
one.
September 6th, yeah. But the series itself is on par with, like, something as beautifully animated as A Silent Voice as well.
It is. Yeah, it's gorgeous. They were capable of making things look very on model and consistent and beautiful and gorgeous at the same time, which a lot of animation studios, quite frankly, struggle with.
They do. Yeah, they really do. And I felt like, and the other reason why I got onto it was because Persona 5's Erika Harlacher did the voice of Violet Evergarden in the dub as well, which she did an outstanding dub of Violet herself. And the thing is, like, I found out from a lot of the voice actors from that were in the series, and with her as well. I found there was a bit of a connection with myself watching it, but then sitting back and enjoying the series standalone as its own story, and obviously, but it really touched me on how well some of anime's writing really is. Like, a lot of people take it for granted, like, us weep shit. No, seriously, like, you have to sit down and watch some of these series because they are extremely well done. And then you think of a series like, or films like A Silent Voice, and think, fuck, these are masterpieces that people are missing, honestly. Because we have some great masterpieces that come from bigger studios like Disney and everything else. But honestly, if I were to compare some of the films that Disney are doing these days, bit shit. But you get stuff
very
like
cookie cutter a lot of the time. Like you can kind of predict where each of the arcs are going to go in a Disney movie, or
exactly. Yeah, I agree.
To predict the end of, say, Your Name from when you first jump into the start of it, I don't think anyone would be able to do it. Even to be able to figure out what the story is trying to tell you of A Silent Voice, you probably won't pick up until near the end.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I definitely put A Silent Voice and Your Name on par with each other, like as two of the best Japanese animation movies put out there. They're definitely on par with each other. And the thing is, like, they came out, I think, like maybe a year apart, or
around the same time.
Around the same time, wasn't it? Yeah.
Within a year of each other.
So you were really at that time spoiled for choice when it came to Japanese animation films as well, like Your Name and A Silent Voice. But A Silent Voice really emotionally was some of the most heavy writing that I had ever seen. And I know that a lot of people still haven't seen the film, and I'm trying to convince a few people. I messaged Pez over the week, and I was like, hey Pez, you've ever seen Kyoto Animation movie? He's like, I think so, but I've never seen A Silent Voice yet. And I said, watch Silent Voice, you're gonna cry. And he goes,
it's like an hour and a half. Just go do it, people.
He goes, okay, I'll definitely watch it. But he actually said, you took me away from hugging my cat. Okay, I'll watch it. So yeah, no. But
and did he? Did he let you know what he thought? Or
I can't spoil that yet, so I'm gonna have to wait and see. But honestly, I did get Buddy to watch it as well when it first came out, and he goes to me, "This is too much."
Yeah,
he was like,
it's heavy.
Yeah, he goes, it is very heavy. One of the most. You have to be prepared to watch something like A Silent Voice, and I wasn't. I got recommended to me by Benny from ATEBIT. He was like, because I was telling him, oh man, your name is like fucking incredible. He goes, your name is great, but have you seen A Silent Voice? And I said, no. And he goes, watch A Silent Voice. Okay. So I said, okay, I'm about to watch it tonight. And he goes, oh, just be prepared. I'm like, for what? And he goes, you're going to cry. I'm like, no. I cried a little bit, but I cried. It was so, it's emotionally draining, but it's so well done that it just gets to you. And yeah,
it resonates on a number of levels.
So much, dude. Like, honestly, I didn't expect it to get to me that much, but it did. Yeah, and like that was another one, and then like something like Free as well. Like I said, I just finished watching it the other night. I thought that the story in it was incredible, dude. Like I wasn't expecting it to be as investing as it was, but it really was. The from the moment that the story arc begins and you get introduced, it's just like I remember buying it. I bought the Blu-ray a couple weeks ago. My boss, who's at work, he's a self-professed weeb himself, but he says, "What is this?" He goes, "What is this? A little bit of yaoi for you?" I'm like, "Oh my god, please don't." And he goes, "Yeah, you're gonna go home and watch some yaoi, aren't you?" I'm like, "Oh my god, don't do this to me now." He goes, "Yeah, enjoy your yaoi, bye." I'm like, "Oh, great." And
it does look a bit like that if you judged a book by its cover.
Yeah,
I can see how he got that impression.
Well, the
it's
front
similar
cover has
to same kind of like judgment could be thrown at like Yuri on Ice.
Yeah,
like
such an amazing series too, Yuri on Ice. Yeah. But Free, definitely. Actually, you know what? If anything, yes, it resonates a little bit like that. However, it doesn't have a lot of the tones or anything that Yuri on Ice does. But Free, it's a sports anime. It is a
swim club.
Yeah, definitely a sports anime. It doesn't have any love connotations to it. That's the thing. Like a lot of people would sit there and look at it and go, this is like Yuri on Ice. It looks like Yuri on Ice by the cover. And yeah, once again, the yaoi kind of deal on the cover. But you watch the series, there is not really any love connotations to it. It's very much directly competition, sports. And that's what I kind of loved about it. It was very competitive driven in the story. And I loved the way that the story was done because what it was a story of redemption. It wasn't a story of love or I love this and I love you and because you love me, we're going to swim together. No, it's redemption. It was purely a redemption story. And, well, at least the first season is. I haven't seen Eternal Summer yet, so I don't know what it's about or anything like that. But definitely highly recommended. I think
I have to check it out.
Yeah, I definitely.
I'm just looking at it now. It's 12 episodes.
Yeah,
I can smash that out.
Highly recommend it to you, dude. It's definitely one of the series that I would highly recommend to you. Is there any series that...
That's the thing, though. Now, the whole time that I'm watching that, or like anyone out there that's listening wanting to jump into that stuff, it's even heavier now knowing the background of the studio. And if I get really invested in this free and say the second season, I'll know that there's potentially no more, or what could have been will always be over my head now.
The film series. And it's funny because I'm only halfway through the second season at the moment. Actually, I should say, yeah. So I'm only halfway through Eternal Summer. No, I'm not even halfway through. I'm about 3 or 4 episodes through Eternal Summer at the moment.
It's about a third.
That's even... It's got a different feeling to it, different arc to it. But once again, it's redemption. I wouldn't say it's as good as the first season so far, but I mean, I don't know yet. I'm only, as I said, 4 episodes in. And
based on the same core characters or different group or
same group, actually everybody from the first season comes back, but it's a different tone. And if you watch the first season, you'll understand why. But I was
he beats the Pokemon League at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen, there is a series that I've always been kind of invested in. It's called, I'll tell you now.
Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions? I knew you were going to say that one.
Yeah, tell me about it.
No, I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it?
No,
Do you
no.
know anything about it?
Nope.
I have no clue.
I know that it's a bit of a mind bender from what I understand, and the girl with the eye patch kind of became like a anime staple, and she was kind of used in a lot of... Yep. She's that girl.
Yep.
And has been used a lot for like anime marketing.
Yeah.
Or like anime representation online and stuff like that. But in terms of actually watching it...
Big, yeah.
I think it is. I think it's a light novel series, which are massive over there.
Mm-mm. I haven't heard anything. I haven't read anything about it. It's one of those mysteries, I guess.
So it's about a boy who believed he possessed supernatural powers.
There you go.
And then he alienates himself from the class.
Once again, have not seen it or heard it. I'm going to have to watch it, honestly. I want to see it because it has intrigued me. I've seen bits and pieces of the trailers and stuff, and some of the animation, it looks great. And I get a little bit of fantasy slice of life kind of deal from it.
Yeah.
As well. Definitely some harem kind of deal as well from it too. But nothing, honestly, harem anime is honestly probably one of my favorite genres.
Because it's easy to watch?
Yes. But I think also presents some of the best comedy tropes as well.
Yep.
We were just talking about one before we began.
Beach episodes?
The beach episodes especially. You know what's funny? I just recently finished I wrote a review on it too on Senko-san as well. That was a good harem.
I haven't checked it out, but it's
great.
I know of it.
Fucking hilarious. But there was one the witch one. Oh god, what was it? The 7 Witches? Something. Yeah.
The one I just mentioned. Yamada-kun.
Yeah. That's the one. Yamada. Was it Yamada-kun?
Yamada-kun and the 7 Witches.
7 Witches. That's the one. Honestly, one of my favorites as well because it presents so many good tropes. Oh, also the twins, the quintuplets. Was it quintuplets? The quintuplets. Oh god, I can't remember what it's called. The something tuplets.
Were we talking about it before?
No, this is a different one now. The quintessential quintuplets. It's a harem series. It's another harem series that's really good, dude. It's about a guy at school who is a substitute teacher almost. He's a...
I've just seen the picture.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking hilarious. He's not a substitute teacher. He's a he's a tutor. He's a student tutor who takes home one student, but he finds out that
shouldn't do that with students.
They all have issues because they're quintuplets and they all have issues at one.
Varied personalities.
Yeah, exactly. One smart at one thing, another one smart at English or math or whatever, and they're each got their problems. And if you put them together, they're all smart as good, but they're all dumb. It's a great series, man. Put it together, it's such a fucking hilarious time. And I sat and watched the whole thing. It really got me, and I was like, "Fuck, this is great too." So I kind of fell for the harem comedy slice of life deal, and I think that's probably my favorite.
It's only a recent series. It's only been airing since January.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah. So I definitely highly recommend that one to you, dude. It's really good. Ryan in the chat says, "Why are so many anime set in schools?" Joel?
Approachability, relatability. Everyone's been to school.
Yeah.
Is one answer that I've heard and floating around and been told a lot. Everyone understands the kind of culture, even though a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, Japanese culture in school, is a little bit different, but everyone understands the concept of going to school. Everyone understands the concept of growing up.
I always took it as a means of easy writing in terms of light novel. Once again, you're right. It is one of those relatable things that everybody goes to school. And that's honestly where a good time set piece kind of can come from, when most animes that try to appeal to a mass market, a casual market, and also kids who watch it. I mean, great example, when were you watching anime? Before school on Cheese TV. Mm-hmm. So it was very relatable when you were watching it. But what we're watching...
those kinds of series, especially like your Digimons, your Pokemons, stuff. Well, Pokemon didn't really have a set school or anything to go to.
But it had kids in it, our age.
Cardcaptors, same kind of thing. They wanted those kids of those age to go and have a relatable thing. Also, you did touch on, it is easy writing. It's an easy way to have all the characters in one spot at one time, because they all got to go to school. They're all going to interact with each other. Yeah. Could you imagine Persona without the school?
Not really. Well, it's funny because the Senko-san one was not about school, but it did have a young girl or depicted young girl who was 800 years old as a demigod. Mm-hmm. It's anime. But at the same time, the set piece, the main setting of the whole series was an apartment. It was I can't remember his name now, but it was an apartment where they would live, and she would take care of the main one of the main characters of the series. So
it's still that one spot of familiarity.
That's it.
Is what I'm getting to, and a lot of the time they just use schools for that.
Yeah.
And they will use that as a plot device, or think of what suits the plot and can have the characters interact in a certain way or easily without having mischief. Yep, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I think you checked out my episode of Talent Talk with Megan Shipman, where we were talking about citrus.
Definitely.
And the reason that she was told, or that she explained that the reason that show has the incesty vibes and the stepsisters is because they needed a way to have those two characters in scenes together all the time, living with each other, and the easy way to do it was just make them stepsisters.
And honestly, one of my favorite series as well, even though it has some tropes in it that are questionable, but it's the story that comes out of it is definitely like you said, they're stepsisters and everything, and they're trying to find their way, and they're teenagers, and they're trying to
But that's not used as a smutty thing. It's used as a plot device to have them together for some reason, which is them living together.
Yeah, it comes from one of the most popular light novels in Japan, Citrus. It's adapted by it. So it's one of those tropes that I think I wouldn't say relatable. It's definitely not relatable in real life or anything like that. But there's a culture.
People understand shift. It though.
Yeah, there's a different. Well, the thing is, in Japan and westernized culture, there's a cultural shift.
Big.
And the way we live here and the way they live there, and it's different. And obviously some of those tropes that they get in anime sometimes can be relatable to real life situations. Not to say that any of that would probably happen. We don't know, but we don't know if this author or light novelist or whatever would have actually encountered something like that. So it's one of those things where they kind of get inspired by events or whatever, and they kind of want to sit back, or it's just their imagination. That's what anime is. It's
also a lot of trend following as well.
Correct.
So or your isekai animes at the moment that are all coming out, that are all kind of riding the coattails, or you could say Sword Art Online kind of shifted that into motion in 2011, 2012, and since then there have been a lot of light novel series that have been very similar to the Sword Art Online light novel series, and they've just happened to get anime adaptations as well. So,
which is funny that you say that, because I just watched the first episode of The Rising of the Shield Hero before we began, and the reason I did was because Paul asked us about it. Have you seen it?
I also haven't, but same thing, fits that same genre. Yeah, and I've heard it's decent. I've heard it's one of the better Sword Art Online copies.
I have too.
And I don't know, let me just do a quick Google. I think it may have been one of the first series that had a simuldub replacement of Vic Mignogna after that whole blow.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Yeah. If you guys don't know about that, I'd rather you Google the whole Victor.
Yeah, Google, make your own impressions. I really don't want to get into that.
Yeah, no.
A lot of people in the industry, like anime people, will not talk about it either. So.
Yeah, no, definitely would not want to talk about that. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting thing. But one of the things I did want to ask you about as well, in regards to Kyoto Animation, was where do you see them now after all of that's happened? Where do you see them now bouncing back, or how do you see them bouncing back? And also, do you see new series coming out of them now? Do you see them leaving a lot of what has made? Thanks, Rockamami, for the host, by the way. Do you see a lot of them kind of leaving what was behind post this tragedy and then coming back with new series, or do you see them
like new IP kind of like
not new IP,
not just doing like another Violet Evergarden or another free movie like Correct, they were working on, like come back and do like their own big return to form, This Is Us, you haven't beaten us down kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
I would like to see it, but I also hope they don't rush into it. I hope they don't feel like they need to rush into it.
I agree.
To stay relevant or to have to put something out just because of what's happened or anything like that. I hope that they take the time that they need, help the people that were at the studio, and the hardest thing is you don't know how many of the key figures in that studio yet were impacted. So you don't know the full impact of and if the projects that they're working on still exist. Because as we mentioned, they were still a very old school studio.
Yep.
And the studio lost everything. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would love to see them bounce back and do like a big redemption film or piece, OVA, whatever it may be. And I hope they put it on their site and allow people to buy it, because I think people would really rush in to support them like they have been through the donations and buying the cells and stuff like that on their sites already.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think it's going to be one of those things where you're right. I hope they don't rush into it, but I do think that what we're going to see now is kind of like what we've just discussed, a new IP kind of deal, where I think they're going to leave what was Kyoto Animation behind, but not necessarily like in stride or anything. It's going to be a case that they need to move on from what's happened. Because obviously with what's happened now, they're going to have to look for new animators, new directors, new key like new writers, new key animators, everything. It's going to be essentially what we're looking at is
it's not a quick process.
It's going to be a brand new studio at the end of it. You know, they'll have a lot of staff that worked with a lot of these people, but a lot of the main figureheads of the studio came from Studio One, from what I've read. Which is just sad, and I hope that I just hope that we come out of the other side of what's happened with a little
something slightly positive. I would love to see them kind of tell the story or tell what they've went through or tell their redemption and strength and rebuilding story through an anime.
Yes.
That'd be really cool as well. As we discussed, Silent Voice has its own kind of themes and messages that you can tell the film's trying to tell you.
Yeah.
I would love to get that kind of thing from them.
Yeah.
And witness, not witness exactly what they've been through, but understand the themes that they've had to do. Maybe they make a character that has to go through certain hardships and come out on the other side damaged but better, or something like that. That'd be really cool.
Well, I think we might see, because they're definitely... when it comes to their series and stuff, there's definitely tones and tropes and everything that they said too. I think this is something that they might even sit down and do, but it's going to be one of those cases where, as well, connecting with a tragedy like this, a lot of their friends and colleagues that were part of it, it's definitely going to be one of those things that are going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of time.
Hey, I'd completely understand if some of the survivors that are injured do not want to come back and do this kind of stuff again. It could be traumatic. It could be... You just never know, the status of these things. I think it's too early days to know what the status of the staff members from Studio One, whether they'll come back.
Yeah.
But I also touched on it a little bit in the piece that you've got going live, that Kyoto Animation were not like the norm in the anime industry in Japan. So it's widely known that it's a pretty shitty industry to work in.
Yeah.
In Japan, even though it's massive, the staff are incredibly underpaid, incredibly overworked, and the Kyoto guys kind of said, "Nah, we're not running our studio like that," and really supported their workers and paid them salary. They weren't just contractors. They kind of attacked like the Morgan Freeman of studios here. Like it was just the nicest kind of hardworking people that put out brilliant stuff, and just been brought down to nothing.
Yeah, it definitely. I definitely want to get you. So the thing is, I definitely want to get you back on another episode to do just to kind of talk a little bit about the industry itself, like the Japanese animation industry. Talk a little bit about more of the series outside of Kyoto Animation and everything, because there's definitely stuff that I would love to touch on in terms of the industry itself, how underpaid. You're right, how underpaid a lot of the industry is, but not necessarily out of purpose or anything like that. It's done because a lot of the staff that do a lot of the animation take their own personal time out of the day, to a lot of family time, a lot of everything, to kind of go work because they love what they do. Pretty much, it resonates a lot with the video game industry. A lot of video game developers give up a lot of family time because they love what they do, but in the end, it can cost them, and not a lot of people know that. And it's the exact same with the anime industry as well. Underpaid, but they love what they do, and they want to keep doing it. But it's definitely a hard industry to crack into. And it's funny because I watched this YouTuber. He goes by the name of Dogen. I'm sure that you've seen him, yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's talked about why he moved to Japan. He moved to Japan from America because he wanted to become an animator himself. He was studying to become an animator, and wants to move to Japan to become a key animation artist. But he said that he couldn't do it. Like he apparently started there and did it like 2 months, and then he was like, I couldn't live off it.
That's the unfortunate side, is it's the only kind of place in the world you can get into that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But the living requirements in Tokyo, where a lot of it goes down, is still pretty expensive, and the wage is very, very little.
Yeah.
So you're kind of hard spot. Unless you manage to get into like one of the Western kind of studios where you're animating for, say, Netflix, or the teams that do like Castlevania, Frederator, and stuff like that. You're kind of stuck when it comes to original anime. It's pretty much segregated to only Japan.
Yeah.
Which means you got to deal with what their standards are.
It's sad. Even though, like, we see a lot of animes try to be westernized afterwards and get releases here on time. Like, the Castlevania series is probably the most perfect example of that. They pump out a series and it's like 4 episodes long, gets westernized and everything else, and gets released like right on time. But the thing is, we don't, like, from what I heard, a lot of time was put into that series. But the response I got was, where's more? We want more.
Well, yeah, from what I understood, they made 8 episodes, cut it in half, released the first 4 as season 1. They already had 4 in the bank, and then spent that buffer time making, I think, an additional 4. I believe season 2 is 8 episodes. I haven't watched season 2 yet, but I believe half of that was already front-loaded with stuff they had, because they gave the little tease of 4 episodes.
It's an unforgiving industry altogether. It really is, and it's quite sad, but that is that way.
But it's a booming, money-filled industry as well.
Oh yeah. I just want to, before we end tonight, I want to make highlight of a post that Jess McCallum made on Anime Lab, which is Kyoto Animation is now accepting direct donations. So for anybody out there who would like to donate to Kyoto Animation, all the details are up on screen right now. For you to check out. For those who are listening, you can find out the details on dashgamer.com. We'll be posting that along with our Kyoto Animation piece, and also you can find it in the details section of this podcast when it's posted there. Guys, that's it for this week's episode. I know it was a little bit more of a different one, and I know that it wasn't the usual rigmarole with Dash Culture, but we definitely want to get Joel back on, and I definitely want to have a little bit more of a lighter episode. I just felt that, I think with what happened, that it was good for us to both come on and discuss it. And
it was worth talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's been something that's been hanging over my head for a little bit, and I've been thinking about it every day since it happened. So, definitely one of those things that we definitely want to talk about. But guys, if you didn't know, Dash Culture is usually a bi-weekly pop culture conversational podcast with the worlds of Dash and Buddy collide. Make sure that you follow Buddy on Twitter at BuddyWatson12. You can follow me on Twitter at Dash Gamers. You can follow Mr. Joel Gralton at Joel Gralton
and Anigame_AU.
That's right, yeah, where you can see all of Joel's reviews, all his anime reviews, all his video game reviews as well. If you like that stuff, make sure that you follow Joel over at anigame.com as well, ani-game.com. So make sure you guys check that out. That's right, I memorized it.
Nice.
Not that it's hard to.
No.
But thanks very much for joining me tonight, Joel. It was definitely
an
insightful conversation, man, and definitely one that I think we both needed to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would have loved to have a bit of a lighter discussion or a bit of a better episode, but it's definitely worth talking about. And
yeah. Well, we'll definitely have you back on. I definitely think that we need to talk a little bit more about some of the series that we really love. Like we really love some of this. We really want to talk about it in more of a lighter tone. Obviously, some of the best animators, some of the best animation, I should say, that comes out of the studio, and plus other studios as well. So I definitely think that we need to get together again and talk a little bit more anime.
For sure, man.
Yeah, man. But guys, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. We'll have Ryan and Paul back on to the show. We're going to be doing a Gamescom pre-episode, so that should be a lot of fun. I might even surprise you guys next week with another episode, but I'm not sure yet. We'll see what happens. I've got to wait for a message back from somebody for that one. But until I do hear from you guys, once again, much love. Stay dashing.
dashgamer.com